You are coughing, but it does no good. Your throat is coated in pulverized glass. You look up, and the sky above you isn't blue. It is a boiling, bruised purple, raining fire and jagged stone. You are running through streets you have known your entire life, but they are completely unrecognizable, buried under feet of gray, smoking rock. A deafening roar echoes behind you, a sound louder than 1,000 thunderstorms, a continuous, physical vibration that rattles your very teeth. The mountain you thought was a peaceful green neighbor is tearing itself apart. This is not a nightmare. It is the late summer of 79 AD, and you are trapped in the city of Pompeii. The earth is shattering beneath your sandals. The air is turning to poison, and you have only minutes to make decisions that will mean the difference between escaping with your life or becoming a hollow plaster cast in a museum thousands of years from now. You must survive. To understand the sheer scale of the nightmare you are in, you have to rewind just a few hours. It is a typical, sweltering afternoon in the thriving Roman city of Pompeii. The Mediterranean sun beats down on the paved basalt streets, warming the massive stepping stones that allow you to cross the roads without stepping in the muck of the city. You are walking through the bustling Forum, the beating, vibrant heart of Pompeii. The air is thick and heavy, carrying a chaotic mix of smells. You inhale the pungent, salty aroma of garum, the fermented fish sauce bubbling in clay vats at the corner shops, which mixes with the comforting scent of freshly baked, round loaves of bread being pulled from the massive brick ovens of Modestus the baker. All around you, life is loud and colorful. Merchants are shouting in Latin, haggling over the price of olives, dyed wool, and strong Campanian wine. Wealthy patricians, draped in crisp white togas, are carried through the crowds in wooden litters by their slaves. In the distance, you can hear the clash of wooden swords as gladiators train in the barracks near the grand amphitheater. When you look to the north, Mount Vesuvius looms over the city. It is a massive, twin-peaked mountain, its slopes covered in lush green vineyards and rustic farming villas. To you and to every single person in this city of 20,000 souls, Vesuvius is just a mountain. The concept of a volcano does not even exist in your vocabulary. The word has not yet been invented. But the mountain has been trying to warn you. For days, the ground beneath your feet has been trembling. You felt it while lying in bed last night. A subtle, rhythmic vibration that rattled your bronze oil lamps and caused the street dogs to howl endlessly into the dark. Just yesterday, the local wells and public fountains mysteriously dried up, the water vanishing deep into the earth. The birds have gone completely quiet. The rats and snakes have been seen fleeing the city walls in droves. But minor earthquakes are common in this region. You and your neighbors rebuilt this very city after a massive quake nearly 2 decades ago. You tell yourself this is just another grumble of the earth. The gods are restless, you think, but they will settle. You are terribly wrong. Deep underground, a massive chamber of magma has been rising for months, turning underground rivers into superheated steam, building an unimaginable, catastrophic pressure inside the rocky, plugged throat of Vesuvius. It is roughly 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You are just sitting down in the courtyard of your home for a midday meal of figs, bread, and watered-down wine. Suddenly, a sound unlike anything you have ever heard rips through the atmosphere. It is a sharp, world-ending crack, followed immediately by a sustained, deafening roar. The sound wave hits you like a physical blow to the chest. The ground heaves violently, throwing you to the mosaic floor. Clay bowls shatter around you. The heavy terracotta tiles on your roof groan and slide. You scramble to your feet, your heart hammering against your ribs, and rush out into the street. You join thousands of bewildered citizens pouring out of their homes and shops, all looking up at the northern sky. What you see freezes the blood in your veins. The entire peak of Mount Vesuvius has blown completely off. In its place, A colossal, terrifying pillar of black smoke, ash, and earth is shooting straight up into the stratosphere. It rises with impossible speed, punching through the clouds, expanding outward as it hits the upper atmosphere. It looks exactly like a massive umbrella pine tree with a tall, straight trunk of dark smoke branching out into a wide, flat, menacing canopy. The sheer scale of the eruption defies human comprehension. The column of debris is traveling at hundreds of miles per hour, reaching 10, then 15, then 20 miles into the sky. For a few agonizing minutes, there is only stunned, breathless silence in the streets of Pompeii. People are pointing, whispering desperate prayers to Jupiter and Vulcan. Some stand paralyzed by awe. But that fascination quickly turns to absolute primal terror as the midday sun is blotted out. The massive volcanic cloud spreads over the city like a thick woolen blanket, casting a deep, unnatural, bruised twilight over the afternoon. The temperature drops, and then the fallout begins. It doesn't rain water, it rains stone. Small, gray, porous rocks begin to clatter against the cobblestones. Pumice. At first, it is light, bouncing off your shoulders and head like aggressive hail. But within minutes, the shower intensifies into a torrential, inescapable downpour of lapilli, jagged volcanic debris torn directly from the belly of the mountain. The stones range from the size of peas to the size of golf balls. When they hit your skin, they burn. They are hot to the touch, carrying the lingering, searing heat of the Earth's mantle. You pull your woolen tunic up over your head, shielding your face as you run for cover. The city around you descends into total chaos. Women are screaming, clutching their children to their chests. Men are shouting for their families, but their voices are entirely drowned out by the relentless, deafening drumming of falling rock against thousands of tile roofs. Carts are overturned as horses panic and bolt. You retreat into your home, slamming the heavy wooden doors shut and throwing the iron bolt. You retreat to your inner rooms. You think you are safe inside. You think you can just wait this out, that the mountain will eventually calm down. But as the hours drag on, the reality of your situation becomes terrifyingly clear. The pumice is falling at a staggering rate of 6 inches an hour. It is piling up in the streets, burying the sidewalks, creeping up the outer walls of your home like a rising tide of gray snow. The sky outside has turned pitch black. It is a darkness so absolute, so thick with falling debris, that it feels heavy and impenetrable. It is mid-afternoon, but it looks like the dead of midnight. You light a small clay oil lamp, the flickering orange flame casting long, nervous shadows against the brightly painted frescoes on your dining room walls. The air inside your home is growing thick and hazy. It tastes heavily of sulfur, like struck matches and rotten eggs. Every breath you take scratches the back of your throat. Dust is seeping in through the window shutters. You look up at your ceiling, and a cold dread washes over you. You realize that staying inside is a death sentence. The flat, wooden-beamed roofs of Roman Pompeii were designed to catch rainwater, not to withstand the crushing weight of accumulating rock. Above you, the thick wooden beams are beginning to groan under the stress. They creak and splinter loudly. Fine white dust drifts down from the ceiling, coating your hair and shoulders. Suddenly, you hear a horrifying, concussive crash from right next door. The ground shakes. Your neighbor's roof has just collapsed under the weight of the pumice, instantly crushing whoever was cowering inside under tons of rock and heavy timber. You have to leave. You have to leave right now. You grab a thick feather pillow from your bed, tying it tightly over your head with long strips of linen cloth to protect your skull from the falling projectiles. You grab your lantern, a small leather pouch of silver coins, and take a deep breath. You step out into the nightmare. Pushing your front door open is an incredible struggle. The pumice drift is already nearly 3 feet deep against the wood. You have to throw your entire body weight against the door, scraping it open just enough to squeeze through. When you finally force your way out, you step into a landscape you do not recognize. The vibrant, colorful, noisy streets of Pompeii are completely gone, replaced by a gray, desolate, monochromatic wasteland. You wade into the loose, shifting lapilli. It is like trying to run through deep, dry sand, but the sand is heavy, sharp, and radiating heat. Every step is exhausting. The air is filled with the terrifying sounds of destruction. Roofs are caving in all around you, echoing like artillery fire in the dark. People are wandering blindly through the streets, weeping, calling out names into the void that go unanswered. In the dim glow of your lantern, you see people carrying heavy bronze statues of the household gods, begging them for salvation. Others are dragging heavy wooden chests of gold and jewels, weighed down by wealth that will soon be utterly meaningless. You push past them, driven by a raw, primal instinct to survive. You know you must head south, away from the roaring mountain, toward the Nucerian Gate and the road to the coastal town of Stabii. As you trudge through the suffocating darkness, the mountain continues its relentless, punishing assault. Vesuvius is not just erupting, it is pulsating, sending violent, rolling tremors through the ground every few minutes. These aren't just vibrations, they are massive tectonic shifts that knock you entirely off your feet. You fall hard into the abrasive pumice, scraping your hands and knees raw. Your lantern flickers dangerously. If that light goes out, you will be completely blind in this hellscape. You curl your body around the flame, shielding it from the falling debris. You are coughing violently now. The fine volcanic ash has begun to mix with the larger pumice stones. This ash is worse than the rocks. It is pulverized glass, crystal, and rock, so microscopically fine that it bypasses the cloth you tied over your mouth. It settles deep into the damp lining of your lungs. With every desperate breath you take, the ash mixes with the moisture in your respiratory tract, forming a heavy, cement-like sludge. You are literally suffocating from the inside out. Your chest burns with a searing pain. Suddenly, the pitch-black sky above you flashes with brilliant, blinding light. But there is no rain. It is volcanic lightning. The immense friction of millions of tons of ash and rock colliding inside the massive plume generates massive amounts of static electricity. Jagged bolts of red, purple, and blue light spiderweb across the sky, illuminating the towering cloud of destruction. For a split second, the flashes reveal a swirling, apocalyptic vortex above you that looks like the open maw of the underworld. These brief flashes of lightning also reveal the true, gruesome horror of the streets around you. You see a family huddled together under a public portico, trapped as the pumice piles up around them, burying them alive. You see a man struck in the head by a volcanic bomb, a dense chunk of rock hurled miles from the crater, lying motionless in the gray drifts. You cannot stop to help them. Survival is a selfish, desperate arithmetic right now. If you stop, you die. You keep moving, your leg muscles burning with lactic acid and exhaustion, every single step requiring a monumental effort. The pumice is now over 3 feet deep. You are walking level with the windows of the shops. You finally reach the Nucerian Gate, the southern exit of the city walls. A bottleneck of terrified, soot-covered refugees is pushing through the stone archway, fighting blindly to escape. You squeeze through the panicked crowd, the intense pressure of human bodies crushing against your ribs. People are trampling each other in the dark. You keep your elbows out, fighting for space, and finally burst through to the other side. Once outside the city walls, the air does not improve. The fallout is everywhere. You join a long, miserable procession of survivors, walking blindly down the rural road, guided only by the dim, bobbing glow of lanterns and the horrifying, continuous roar of the mountain behind you. It is now the early hours of the next morning. You have been walking for hours, your body pushed to the absolute limits of human endurance. You are miles away from Pompeii, nearing the coastal town of Stabii. The pumice fall has lightened slightly, giving you a fragile, false sense of hope. You sit down heavily against a low stone wall, your chest heaving, your throat raw and tasting of copper and blood. You think the worst is over. You think you have outrun the wrath of the gods. But Vesuvius is saving its most lethal, unimaginable weapon for last. The massive 20-mile-high column of ash and pumice that has been spewing into the sky for nearly 18 hours is becoming too heavy. The mountain's pressure drops slightly, and it can no longer sustain the upward force required to hold millions of tons of rock in the stratosphere. The column begins to collapse in on itself. You look back toward the north, toward your home. Through the hazy, ash-choked air, illuminated by the continuous flashes of volcanic lightning, you see something that defies all logic. A massive, billowing cloud is rolling down the slopes of the mountain, hugging the ground. It is not smoke. It is a pyroclastic surge. It is a terrifying, unstoppable avalanche of superheated gas, ash, and pulverized rock, moving down the mountain at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. It glows with a demonic, red-hot incandescence from the heat inside it. The temperature inside that rolling cloud is nearly 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a wave of absolute, instantaneous death. It hits the coastal town of Herculaneum first, though you cannot see it. The heat is so intense that when the surge hits the shoreline, it vaporizes the sea. It instantly boils the blood and brain fluid of anyone caught in its path, turning them to charred, blackened skeletons in a fraction of a second, before they even have time to register the pain. You don't know this, but you can feel the immense wave of thermal energy radiating miles ahead of the cloud. The air pressure drops suddenly, violently popping your ears. A hurricane-force wind hits you, knocking you backward over the stone wall. The surge is racing across the landscape, incinerating everything it touches. Giant pine trees burst into flames before the cloud even reaches them, ignited by the sheer radiant heat. The surge hits Pompeii. It rips the roofs off the remaining houses, toppling the stone columns of the temples. It kills anyone who stayed behind instantly, replacing the oxygen in their lungs with 1,000-degree gas, freezing their bodies in their final moments of agony as they are buried in a thick, dense layer of fine ash. And the cloud is heading toward you. Panic, pure, unadulterated, and blinding, takes over your mind. You scramble to your feet, dropping your lantern, dropping your coins. The sea is only a few hundred yards away down a sloping embankment. It is your only chance. You run toward the black beach, your lungs screaming for air, your legs feeling like heavy lead weights. You can hear the surge behind you now. It does not sound like a landslide. It sounds like 1,000 freight trains rushing over the earth, a deep, guttural roar that shakes the fluid in your eyeballs. The heat is becoming unbearable. It feels like you have opened the door to a massive furnace. The skin on the back of your neck begins to blister. The hair on your arms singes and curls. You reach the shoreline. The sea is violent, churning with floating volcanic debris, the water receding dangerously from the beach due to the intense seismic activity rocking the seabed. Small wooden fishing boats are violently pitching in the shallows, abandoned by their owners. You wade into the freezing, turbulent water. The shock of the cold ocean is a jarring, painful contrast to the oppressive, burning heat of the air. You haul yourself over the wooden side of a small skiff, collapsing hard onto the wet, slippery floorboards. A few other desperate survivors are doing the same, grabbing the wooden oars and frantically, wildly rowing away from the shore, fighting the churning waves. You look back at the beach. The pyroclastic surge reaches the shoreline. The superheated cloud of gas and rock hits the ocean with an explosive, deafening hiss, sending massive, blinding plumes of white steam violently into the black sky. The thermal wave washes over your boat. The heat is agonizing. It dries your soaking wet tunic instantly against your skin. You throw yourself to the bottom of the boat, covering your face with your arms, holding your breath until your lungs feel like they are going to rupture. The outer edge of the ash cloud rolls directly over the boat, plunging you into a darkness so thick, so heavy, that it feels like you have been buried alive in a tomb. You are choking, gagging on the concentrated sulfurous gas that seeps through your fingers. You can feel the heavy, hot ash raining down, weighing down the small wooden boat, threatening to capsize it into the boiling sea. For what feels like an eternity, you drift in this hot, toxic, pitch-black void. You close your eyes, expecting every single second to be your last, waiting for the heat to finally consume you. But it doesn't. Slowly, agonizingly, the intense heat begins to dissipate. The violent, rushing roar of the pyroclastic surge fades into a dull, echoing rumble in the distance. You open your eyes, though it makes no difference in the pitch black. You take a shallow, ragged breath. It burns, but it is air. You are still breathing. You are alive. You lie in the bottom of the rocking boat, your body trembling uncontrollably, listening to the quiet weeping and coughing of the strangers huddled around you. Hours pass in the terrifying darkness. You drift on the sea, suspended in a void of ash and water. Eventually, the darkness begins to lift. The heavy ash slowly settles out of the air. A weak, sickly, pale yellow light pierces through the thick atmospheric haze. It is morning. You slowly sit up, your joints aching, your body covered in a thick layer of gray mud, and you look back toward the Italian coastline. The world you knew just 24 hours ago has been completely erased. The lush, green, towering slopes of Mount Vesuvius are gone, replaced by a blackened, smoking, decapitated crater. The bustling, vibrant city of Pompeii, with its loud markets, its grand amphitheater, its beautiful painted frescoes, and its thousands of people, has vanished completely from the face of the earth. It is buried under millions of tons of ash, pumice, and rock. The coastline itself has changed shape entirely, extended outward by the massive deposits of volcanic debris. There are no birds singing. There is no wind rustling through the trees, because there are no trees left. There is only a profound, heavy, suffocating silence. It is the silence of a massive, sprawling graveyard. You survived. You made it to the water. But you will carry the heavy, suffocating weight of this day for the rest of your life. You will never forget the deafening roar of the mountain tearing itself apart, the terrifying, relentless rain of burning stone, the absolute darkness of the midday sky, and the horrifying sight of the glowing death cloud rolling across the earth. You are a witness to one of the most catastrophic and sudden natural disasters in human history. You have looked directly into the fiery, merciless maw of the apocalypse and lived to tell the tale. But as you sit in the drifting boat, staring at the smoking gray ruins of your home, you realize that Pompeii is gone forever. It is frozen in time, locked away in the dark, waiting under the ash for a future world thousands of years from now to uncover its tragic, silent streets.
If you liked this video, please hit the like and subscribe button for more.